Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is where I get to chat with people that I've connected with over the years in the world of arts and entertainment, most of whom are all just a little bit more famous than I am. And today, I'm happy to have with me multiple Juno award-winning Canadian Music Hall of Fame inductee, Larry Mercey. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Well, very happy to be here, Tommy.
It's my absolute pleasure. Larry, I know that you have been a long-time veteran of the Canadian country music scene and that you got into it fairly early. You've got over 60 years so far in the business. I understand you started fairly young, and something that I was pretty fascinated by is that in your book, you said that when you were a kid growing up, most of your friends were into music. That sounds very interesting to me. Most of my friends were into playing in the creek and doing different things other than music.
Yeah, well, I think that if you like music, you kind of go towards people that like to play music as well. Both my brothers, they played hockey and so on, which I played hockey on the pond and stuff like that, but I was never in a hockey league or something like them. I always played more music. I actually started when I was 16 years old on the CKNX barn dance out of Wingham, Ontario. And it was a traveling barn dance, and it would be broadcast on radio every Saturday night. And it would travel within a 100-mile radius of Wingham. And so it was a great start for me. So that when television came along in Wingham, I was right on TV right away. So I was very lucky. And kids today don't really have that opportunity like I did.
No, things have certainly changed a lot. I understand that both of your parents were very supportive, and your dad kind of pushed you into the music early.
Yes, they really were. People of their age, music was their entertainment. They would have, parties or something, I guess, and almost everybody played the fiddle or the guitar or something. So my dad, he would get us three boys in the living room and on a Sunday afternoon or something and start singing for us and that and trying to get us interested. And wasn't long we were all out playing ball or doing something. But it all rubbed off on us because Lloyd, Ray, and myself, there were just the three boys in the family, all good in the music business. So I guess it worked out. And my mother was a great push. She actually passed away when she was 42. And the year she passed away, we won second in Canada on the show called Talent Caravan on the CBC, which was like a great boost to our careers, really. We had been on TV a lot in Wingham for a couple of years at that point, but she never saw us get that kind of a win. And as far as our genre of music goes, it was great because from that we got on the Country Hoedown show, Red River Jamboree out in Winnipeg, Sing-Along Jubilee, things like that in Halifax. So it really got a great start for us.
I remember the Sing-Along Jubilee for sure and Country Hoedown. Those were kind of Canadian institutions, that's for sure. Now, it's interesting to me that you started out solo, and then ultimately the Mercey Brothers were a going concern for over 30 years. So how long were you on your own before you brought your brothers into the fold?
Well, I was only, I would say, 2 years. I think I started in 1956 it was, and Raymond, relatives would say to Raymond, like, why don't you sing with your brother? And actually, Raymond's first time singing for us singing together was on live television on CKNX. It wasn't at a Legion Hall or it wasn't for a Catholic Women League meeting or something. It was right onto TV. So we were two scared-looking kids on that show, I'm sure. And she mentioned that my mother, when I started, she started to keep a scrapbook. And she wrote where we were, what place we played in, how much I got paid, what songs I sang. In fact, a lot of the songs, I couldn't hum them. I don't know what they were like at all, but I sang them. And after she passed away, I kind of kept up the scrapbook thing. And I about 22 scrapbooks now. And most of my date books through that, which was really a great help to write a book. I had all this information. And even with the scrapbooks, where we played, even the odd time, even how much we got paid or something, So it was a great help to write the book.
Right. Now, speaking of the book, you've just released your book, and it's Have Mercey, My First 60 Years Making Music. You've had a lot of very high-profile friends over the years you've connected with, and I noticed that you had forwards by people like Carol Baker, Larry Delaney from Country Music News, Tommy Hunter, Brett Kissel. So it's been a fun ride, and you've connected with an awful lot of top-shelf artists over the years as well.
We were very, very lucky to, let's say we were at the music business, I think, when it was the best times. You could make a living at it, working 6 nights a week and even once in a while 7 days a week. And we were very fortunate that we were able to fly. I've been across Canada a number of times, but never driven. It's always I'd flown to Winnipeg or something and drove on to Saskatoon or something. And we were very lucky to fly. And what that did for us was that I know there was a time we, say on a Friday night, we were in Prince Edward Island, and the next night we were in Nova Scotia, and the next night we were in Saskatoon, up around in Saskatchewan. So you could never do that driving. So the flying really helped us a lot.
No kidding. When I was a full-time musician, we drove pretty well everywhere, and there's nothing like wrapping up on a Saturday night in Brampton, Ontario, and then having to get in the van immediately and drive the 15, 16 hours to Thunder Bay so you can set up on a Sunday afternoon and not disturb their dinner crowd before your first show on the Monday night. Yeah.
No, so. I know. We did some of those things. Like in the early days, of course, we drove, and like everybody else, we worked the Northern Circuit. Sault Ste. Marie was our first club job we ever did, was up there. And of course, we went to Timmins and Sudbury and all those places. And back in those days, I'm in the early 60s or 60s, it was all two-lane highway to those places. So I know from Hanover, which was our hometown, it was a good 12 hours to get to Sault Ste. Marie. And in the wintertime, it was in a storm, out of a storm, in a storm, out of a storm, with the weather like that. But we always made her through.
Yeah, it's a wild ride, boy, that's for sure. And I can imagine that once you got to the point where you were flying to the destinations, that made life a lot easier. Not to mention you were probably in a lot better physical shape when you flew rather than having to drive cross country too.
Yes, I'm quite sure we were. We would rent trucks at the other end. We were in and out of the airport before other people, really. We would, let's say, before 9/11, we would fly out of the Toronto airport. We would drive underneath the airport. We would load our own container. We would fly with 28 pieces of equipment, our lighting and our PA system, and we would load the container, and they would, and I'm not sure how they did that day, call or whatever, that we were coming into Calgary, and we would like our container number such and such pulled to the commissionaire's gate, and we would pick it up. So we often had our luggage or all our equipment before other people had their luggage and were getting out of the airport. We had rented a truck. One of us would go get the truck. One would make sure that equipment was being pulled to the commissionaire's gate, and away we went. And it worked really very, very, very smoothly.
No doubt you guys were a well-oiled machine, that's for sure. Now, I understand that the Mercey Brothers initially signed to Chateau Records. And,
yes, we did.
And then you hit the charts with just the snap of your fingers. Now, what I find interesting is that in the same year, you struck a deal with Columbia Records and then ended up with 4 chart-topping singles with them.
Well, it wouldn't be the same year. When we won a second on a show called Talent Caravan, that was in 1960, and we had a couple of calls from different companies, record companies, wanting to maybe record us. And one was from Thunder Bay, and another one was from Toronto, and it was Chateau Records. So we thought we'd be much better in Toronto. We were only 100 miles from Toronto, so it was close to do that. And we had a number 1 record at a lot of places with a song, Just a Snap of Your Fingers. Just as a little note here, last year I got a check from England where the song was used in a ballet, if you can ever imagine, in England.
Wow.
So you never know when you write something or you put something out, just when it's going to be used again. You could never think that a song, it was kind of a rocky song a little bit, and you never think it would be used in a ballet in 2020 or something,
Yeah, it's crazy. You never know what people on radio are going to do. I had recorded a song in 2008 on one of my earlier independent releases, and it got some marginal play on the Moose FM stations up north and so on. And just recently, I've released my own best of collection. I sent it out to different people in radio. And Blues FM has played this one song that it's not even a blues song.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
And I guess the guy just really likes it, it's not one of my more recent songs. It's from 12, 13 years ago. But you just never know.
No, you never know. Yeah. You never know. So the way we used to think about records, a record to us was always a promotional tool. As I'm sure you know, you don't make very big money on putting out records in Canada, and we looked at it like going to Las Vegas and gambling. You pull the handle. You don't know how much you're going to make or lose, whatever. And we figured that records were the same. Every 4 or 5 months, we would put out a new single. And we probably put out 100 singles, I'm sure, in our time.
Now, you had signed multiple record deals over the years. And I understand that, was it around 1973 that you opened your own studio? And then in 75, you started your own label?
It'll be 1966 when we signed with Columbia. And we had we had a couple good songs, Uncle Tom, Whistle on the River, that I still hear today on radio. And we were with Columbia for about 4 years and put out 2 albums. And then we went with RCA for probably, 8 or 9 years. I forgot how long it was there, but did a number of albums for them. Around 1973, 72, and around there, we were still on RCA. And we thought we'd just put a little 4-track recording studio in a little building we'd bought in Elmira, Ontario. And we thought we could maybe record some tracks, and then we could transfer them to RCA at their studio and finish up things. And it went from 4-track, we might as well go 8-track and have an 8-track studio. And then we talked to the banker, and that time 16-track was more or whatever, and he said, I can give you the money, get the money. So we went to 16-track studio, and we built a building, and we added on to the building we had there. And then I guess in around 1975 it was, we started MBS Records. And we thought that there was a number of people that we felt should be getting a deal at a record label and weren't. One was Terry Carice, who we eventually published probably 90 of his songs at least. Another one was Marie Bottrell, that was from London, of course. And we started Marie when she was 16 years old. She was on our record label.
Juno was in the early 80s, probably 83, 84. I was with the band that was in the BX93 Country Roads competition. I don't know if you remember that. And we were, I think it was the semifinals, and we were up against Marie Bottrell. And I just knew there was no way that we had no chance, because she was, I shouldn't say is a super talent.
She is a very, very good singer. Marie's been a great singer all through her career.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah, now, I think listening to you talk and about starting your own label, I think one thing that separates you and the Mercey Brothers from probably the vast majority of musical talent we have in North America is that you have business acumen. And that goes so far. The ability to take things under your own control, that says a lot about you and your brothers as entrepreneurial spirits.
Well, I think early on we learned that it is the music business. It's not just music, it's business. And we ran it as a business. And I think that was, and then another thing, when we left RCA on Columbia, we had leased our product to them, so we owned their records. With RCA, a number of the albums RCA had paid for. When we left RCA, we had a good lawyer, like a good music business lawyer in Toronto, and we bought back everything that RCA had done. We took control of it. We bought it so that if we were on another label, RCA wouldn't be able to put out any records on us that might interfere with what we were doing. So you're right, we really did take control of our careers.
Yeah, and that's huge.
Tom, a lot of that was luck. I'm sure it was luck, just why we did it. It's like you just can't say it.
when I spoke to Tommy Hunter a while back, we talked about luck, and he said it wasn't really luck for him. He was kind of in the right place at the right time and ended up, lucky to have Saul Holoff and so on. And I said, well, I guess you make your own luck, by putting yourself in front of the right people and making sure you don't miss appointments and so on. So, yeah, luck has something to do with it, but you're only as lucky as you let yourself be, I think.
Yeah. Like a lot of luck is hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get a paycheck if you don't go to work.
Nope, that's right. You gotta, and like you have to have drive. Like I always said, you need drive. You want it. You have to want it. We would have young girls maybe come to want to be on a record label and so on, and we would mention about Marie, and we would say Marie Bottrell would crawl through glass to get through where she wants to get to. You have to have that drive.
Absolutely.
And I think we had the drive. I think I still have drive.
I think, well, that's something else I was thinking about, is that the Mercey Brothers were together for 30 years or so, and when your brothers moved on, you kept moving forward and started your own solo career, and then you ended up, after the Mercey Brothers, you were nominated for even more Junos, and you had at least one more top 20 RPM country charted song.
Yes, I had really great support at radio. And I had, just good friends that helped out. And I kind of knew what a good song was, too, if I heard it. We were in the publishing business as well, so.
Right. Now, you co-wrote a song that Charlie Pride recorded. How did that all come together?
Well, I had a friend in Georgia who sent me up a chorus. Well, he kind of sent me the whole song type of thing, but I didn't like the rest of it. I really liked the chorus. It was called America the Great. And I wrote the verses and the new melody to it, and I thought it would be a good song for Charlie Pride. Now, we had been on RCA with Charlie and had met him a couple of times, just really met him, but I knew that one of the old employees that were at RCA, a promotion person, Barry Hogan, knew him and did some photography work for him when he was doing his shows up here. So I asked Barry whether he could get this song to him. And he said, well, he really couldn't, but he could give me Charlie's manager's name and address and that, and I could send it to him. So I sent him this song, America the Great, and in 3 days I got word back that Charlie wanted to do the song. Well, about a year later, I'm still waiting for the song to be used, and Charlie was down in Hamilton Place, and I went down to see him and got backstage and talking to him. And he started to sing the song, and I thought, he does like this song. He wants to do this song. So they recorded it and recorded the album, but Charlie's wife didn't like 5 of the songs on the album. They kept telling me, your song's on there, but I want to keep that one. So after 3 years, he brought out this album with it on. Now, my wife and I were down in Florida, and Charlie was playing at the Strawberry Festival or something, I think it's called. And I contacted his management and that, and we were able to get backstage. And his manager said, I think Charlie's going to do your song today. Like, he's never done it before. So he came back about 10 minutes later. We were like in a compound, and he said, yeah, they're up on stage just rehearsing it now. Do you want to go up and give a listen? So Juno and I went up, and after they finished, Charlie saw me back there. He said, oh, there's my Canadian friend, he says. And he goes back, and we chat for a while. Make a long story short here, about halfway through his concert, he said, I got a new album coming out tomorrow. I got a couple of songs I want to do. One is written by a Canadian, and he's in the audience here. Now, there was a writer from Georgia who wanted as well, but Charlie always felt it was nicer to say a Canadian wrote it for some reason, I'm not sure. And anyway, he introduced me in the audience. And he started to sing the song, and a few people stood up. By the second verse, more people stood up. By the chorus, there were 10,000 Americans standing up for this song that Charlie had never done before. And so I couldn't have bought that. Like, to be so blessed to be there and hear that. Like to be there like that. And Charlie said after he was blown away, he'd never had a song that had done that well, only like the first time he did it. So he was doing that song right up to his death this year with most of his shows in the United States and even some in Canada. If I was at the show, he'd kind of do it. And I would just want to say a little bit about Charlie Pride here. Charlie was a great person. Maybe you would know this too, or a lot of people would know that A lot of times when you have a song and a major act wants to do it, they want to have piece of the action of it. And they want to own some of the publishing, they want to own some of the writing or something. And Charlie didn't want anything like that. So I went down to see him at Kitchener one time, and I thanked him for not wanting parts of the song. And he said, Larry, I don't have to be greedy. And he said, if I do any more of your material, I won't want anything either. So on his next album, on his last album that he did at all, just the last one he did, the Mercey Brothers, we have 3 songs on there that we're involved with. So Charlie was very good to us.
Wow. That is something else. Yeah.
Isn't that a good story? To be there?
That's wonderful. Yeah.
We're very lucky to be there.
What an experience that would have been.
Yeah, it was. It was incredible.
Now, I want to touch on your book a little bit. I found it very interesting that, as you mentioned earlier, that your mother kept a journal of all of your shows.
Yeah.
And now what really fascinated me was the fact that at some point there was a play that was written based on your mother's journal.
Yes, there was a play up at Blythe, at the theater in Blythe, called Barn Dance Live. And when they were writing that, the writer of that show came to our home, and we were living in Waterloo at that point, and came to our home and read my mother's journal all into a tape recorder. And much of the play was written from things that she had kind of written about in her book. And I was in the play, I wasn't, there was an actor who played me, which was kind of neat to have too, to have that. And it did very well. In fact, they did it a couple years up there. It went over very, very good for the Blythe Theater.
That's pretty cool. Now, I know you've had a long and illustrious career, and I'm pretty sure that if it weren't for COVID, you'd still be out there singing and selling your wares.
I still hope so. I was singing a bit this morning just to try to make sure I still have my voice and so on, which I do, and I can still remember the words of the songs and so on. I did say to my wife sometime last year, well, I'm going to have done my last concert or my last festival, because I'm 81 years old now, and you don't know what's really ahead of you, and you've read you lost a year, and who knows about this year, in 2021, when there's going to be live entertainment. It may not be even this year. So it makes me 82, and I hope I still go out and sing. I am very blessed, Tommy. I feel I have a very good life in the music business, and if that's the way it ends that way. But I've written a book, as you had mentioned about it, and I'll maybe just say a little bit how I wrote that, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I had a fellow from Woodstock, Ontario. His name is Tom Ryerson. He had written a number of books, and he was writing a book about the Brantford area musicians. And then he was writing a book about the record companies in southern Ontario. And he'd written a bit about MBS records, and he had sent it to me. He had a recording studio in a house, which it wasn't, and he had our office in some other place. And I said, why don't you come to Ilderton? And I've got all the information. I've got every MBS record we've put out, and you can get it right from the horse's mouth here. So he came down, and while he was here, I was showing him all my 22 scrapbooks that I have here, and I said that I thought I might like to write a book, mostly for my family, for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, that I leave kind of a legacy to them that, they know what I did. And he said, I've written 15 books. He says, if I can help you, I'd be glad to. So he sent me, the next day, he sent me a template of how to write a book. Like, you start at one page, and you type, and you go to the next page, and whatever. So the next day I started to work on writing the book, and I really felt that I'd like to have my mother's book in there of how I started. And I know in a way that portion of the book is a little boring, I think, because it's a lot of dates and a lot of different things like that. But I thought it would be good to have it in there. And then that took me a good 2 years to write the book. I was going to put it out last year, and I have a book launch on July the 1st. Of course, COVID came along. And then I was also going to put a book into every delegate's bag at the Canadian Country Music Convention in Hamilton. Well, of course, that didn't go either. So there was no panic to get my book out. So It was very excited. It's actually about 3 weeks ago today that I picked up the books. It was pretty exciting to get it.
No kidding. Yeah, I've started writing my own book, and it's quite the process.
It's I don't know if you're a one-finger typer, but I'm a one-finger typer. And it's 423 pages. A lot of typing, but I love doing it. Like I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm really enjoying getting the book out. I've already, in just 3 weeks here, I've sold over 200 books already.
Well, let's talk about where people can get the book. Again, your book is called Have Mercey, My First 60 Years of Making Music. And where can people get the book?
Well, they can get information off the Mercey Brother and Larry Mercey website. It would be larrymercey.ca. And also, most people get the book from my email address. They can email me, and I'll mail the book out to them. The email is Larry Mercey. I'll spell it all out because most people leave the E out of Mercey. It's Larry, LARRYMERCEY 40 @gmail.com.
Say that again?
It's Larry Mercey 40 gmail.com.
Perfect. Yeah, we want to make sure that people know where to get the book. Well, I'll tell you, as I mentioned before, you've had a long and illustrious career, and congratulations on everything that you've accomplished. Being inducted into the Canadian Country Music HOF, multiple Juno Awards, and all of your wonderful connections that you've had over the years. And you mentioned to me earlier that you talk to Tommy Hunter once a week, and you've had a really good life, and congratulations. I don't really have any more questions for you, Larry, but what I like to do on my show is to give my guests the last word. So this is your chance, if you have something that you feel passionately about, to tell the people.
Well, thank you very much, Tommy, for having me on in the first place. And I think what I would like to end with really is how blessed I've been. I've been able to be married for 56 years, which is a long time in the music business to a point. I've had a great family. I've got great support. I've got really good fans that really all across the country. A lot of people can't believe that whatever town we're in, there's always somebody that we know. And made a lot of friends. And the bands that we had some great players as Mercey Brothers. And I now have a trio called the Larry Mercey Trio with Al Alderson and George Lonsberry, who we are really friends. We are very close friends. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And I want to thank everybody for listening today, and thank you very much, Tommy.
Well, it's been my absolute pleasure. I do look forward to a day when guys like you and I can get together face-to-face, maybe have a coffee or a beer or whatever, and tell a few lies in person. But until such a time as that is possible, I say thank you very much, and until next time, cheers.
Thank you.
Well, that was a fun interview for me. I really do enjoy speaking with people like Larry Mercey, who have paved roads for so many others to follow. Don't forget to order his book, Have Mercey, My First 60 Years Making Music. And you can do that by going to his email. Send him an email, larrymercey40 @gmail.com. Meanwhile, please enjoy this classic Mercey Brothers song, Uncle Tom.
Hey, Uncle Tom, how are you getting on? Are you still living easy and in style? Do the girls still seek your hand, looking for a wedding band? Uncle Tom, I haven't seen you for a while. Well, I still remember when one evening you came in from the cold and stormy darkness of the night. And as if you hadn't been, you were there and gone again. And for many years you dropped right out of sight. Hey, Uncle Tom, how are you getting on? Are you still living easy and in style? Do the girls still seek your hand, looking for a wedding band? Uncle Tom, I haven't seen you for a while. I thought that I had seen you on the corner of a street in a town that I was just passing through. But I must have been mistaken for the man he looked forsaken, a beggar and a pauper not like you. Hey, Uncle Tom, how are you getting on? Are you still living easy and in style? Do the girls still seek your hand, looking for a wedding band? Uncle Tom, I haven't seen you for a while. If you can spare the time, would you please write me a line, or stop in any time you pass my way? See my wife and see my son, see the life that we've begun, and if it's to your liking, you may stay. Hey, Uncle Tom, how are you getting on? Are you still living easy and in style? Do the girls still seek your hand, looking for a wedding band? Uncle Tom, I haven't seen you for a while. Uncle Tom, I haven't seen you for a while.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including producing, editing, guest acquisition, etc. All rights reserved. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends was written and recorded by Tommy Solo with a little help from my friends in the night crew. And hey, if you like the show, why not subscribe? Until next time, cheers.